Hello Star Wars fans, and welcome to episode 21 of Journey into Legends. Today we are going to be talking about one of the most notorious Star Wars books ever written, The Crystal Star. The Crystal Star was released in 1994 and was written by Vonda N. McIntyre. Despite the bad things people say about this book, I'm really excited to jump into it because from what I've heard, it sounds super weird and campy. So without further ado, let's read and review. Alright, I just finished this book, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I think it's wildly overhated, and while it's not the best book, it was still an entertaining read. Before I dive any further into this book, careful for spoilers if you haven't read it yet. To begin my spoiler review, I'm going to be talking about the little adventure that Han, Luke, and 3PO go on during this book. So at the beginning of this book, Luke and Han travel to Kershi Station to investigate reports of a mysterious being that Luke believes could be a long-lost Jedi. This plotline was actually my least favorite part of this book. First off, most of it was extremely boring and dealt with mundane things such as Han gambling and trying to win their money back. Secondly, the characterization for Luke and Han is quite off in this book. Both are just uncharacteristically dull characters. Luke specifically is just not himself throughout this book. But this plotline actually gets a little interesting when their contact, a woman named Zavari, brings them to an omniscient being named Waru. This is one of the aspects of the story that gets consistently brought up within the fandom as being extremely stupid and cheesy, but I actually enjoyed this storyline quite a bit. Maybe that's because I can appreciate when Star Wars gets super weird and campy. For example, I loved the Lando Calrissian Adventures trilogy and how weird those books were. To me, I just really liked how Waru was presented and how the characters reacted to him, even though as a concept, he is quite strange. So this book begins with Leia on a diplomatic mission to a planet called Munto Kodru, where she finds that her children have been kidnapped. Of course, she spends the entire book traveling the galaxy trying to find their kidnappers. Following the trail, she stumbles upon a group of derelict slave ships, where she meets a woman named Relau. Under the disguise of Lelila and Geyyahab, Leia and Chewbacca travel with Relau to the planet of Chalcedon to get involved in the slave trade in an attempt to find the kids. Overall, this plotline was decent. Much of it was boring, especially the parts that took place on the slave ships and on Chalcedon, but otherwise I thought Relau was a decent character, and eventually the way this plotline converges with the others of the book makes for an entertaining finale. Like I said before, the Solo children are kidnapped at the beginning of this book from Munto Kodru. Throughout this book, we follow the children as they are being held by a man named Hethreer. This is actually the first book to truly develop the characters of the children, and I really enjoyed that. Another character I enjoyed was Tigris, Hethreer and Relau's secret son. I thought his relationship with Anakin was sweet, and his development was actually well done. Overall, I'd say this was probably the most interesting plotline of the book. It had some good characters, the plot was actually quite interesting, and there were some cool moments. Overall, I think this book is extremely undeserving of its bad reputation. It's definitely not the best Star Wars book ever written, a lot of it is boring, there's some questionable characterization, and it's undoubtedly weird and doesn't really feel like Star Wars. But I thought it had some pretty interesting stuff going on. The Solo children were developed, the book had some fun original characters such as Waru, Hethreer, Relau, and Tigris, and I really liked how the story was structured. I've decided to give this book a 74%, surprisingly putting it above Splinter of the Mind's Eye, as well as both Dark Apprentice and Champions of the Force. Tell me in the comments what you thought about this book. Is it as bad as people say, or do you agree with me that it's better than its reputation? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next review where I'll be starting the Corellian trilogy with Book 1, Ambush at Corellia. See ya.